Let's take a look at our third and final method for solving quadratic equations, and that is using something called the quadratic formula. This is a formula that, first of all, you need to have memorized for the test, so keep that in mind. So let's take a look at what that formula is that you may or may not have seen before. This is the quadratic formula, and it says that x is equal to negative b, or the opposite of b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Now you're probably looking at that thinking, what do all those letters mean? When we are given a quadratic formula, it always looks like this. ax squared plus bx plus c. So in this quadratic formula, when they're looking for using a's, b's, and c's, they're talking about a right there, b right there, and c right there. Notice I didn't highlight the x's. We're only using the numbers in front of the x's. The other thing that is important is you must include their positive or negative signs. And so if you are able to take three numbers and plug them into a formula, you can solve using the quadratic formula. So let's look at the actual step-by-step instructions to go along with this. First step, make one side of the equation equal to 0. Now we've done this before. We did this when we had to factor. One little note I want you to add. We always want x squared to stay positive. So when you're deciding what stuff to move, keep that in mind. Then plug your a, your b, and your c into your lovely formula here. Third step, we have some simplifying. This is stuff that your calculator is going to help you with. You're going to put things like this part into your calculator. You're going to do multiplying. One important thing though, and this is what we tend to make our mistakes on, you must use factor trees. There's absolutely no rounding allowed on these problems. And then the final step, and this is your other important thing that we've talked about before, if there is a negative under the radical, we know our answer is going to have an I. The same stuff that we did when we did imaginary numbers. The same stuff that we did last class when we used the square root property. So let's take a look at some examples. We'll try some together. You'll try some on your own. Our first example, we have to start by making the equation equal to 0. So I look and I think, well, this is the easiest number to move. So I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides. That leaves me with 3x squared plus 8x minus 35 equals 0. We cannot put those together, so we write them in the proper order. Now we're ready to identify our a, b, and c. 3 is a, positive 8 is b, negative 35 is c. We're going to plug it into our formula. So we start off with x equals. Our formula looks like this. We'll jot it down over here. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So I need the opposite of b. Well, b is 8, so the opposite of 8 is negative 8, plus or minus, and a large square root. Now I need b squared. So 8 squared minus 4 is part of the formula, never changes. Minus 4. This is multiplication. So we're multiplying it by a, which is 3, and we're multiplying it by c, which is negative 35. And then a big division bar, all divided by 2 times a. So 2 times your a value of 3. That's the plugging in part. Now we're on to the simplifying part. Take it in small steps. here's the first thing you're going to want to do. This can't be simplified. We're going to keep the -8. We're going to keep the plus or minus. Do not type the square root in your calculator. Keep the square root there. What you can type in your calculator is the stuff under the square root. This part right here. Pick up your calculator, type in 8 squared minus 4 times 3 times -35, and you get an answer of 484. Keep the division bar. 2 times 3 is 6. Now, we want to know what kind of problem this is. You're going to have problems that are nice answers, you're going to have problems that are factor trees, and you're going to have problems that are imaginary numbers. Now, we're going to check our calculator. Do me a favor now and type the square root of 48 in your the square root of 484 in your calculator. Do you get a whole number? Well, if you pick up your calculator and try it, you should get an answer of 22. That's not rounded. There's no decimals. That's an exact answer. If you get a perfect square root, you do not have to use a factor tree. You can simply replace the square root of 484 with 22. So we keep the -8, we keep the plus or minus. This part right here all goes away and is replaced by 22. The square root's gone, the 484 is gone. And we keep the divided by 6. Now, perfect square roots mean that you're going to have 2 answers. That's the final step, is to find those 2 answers. So, I am going to split my problem up. I'm going to split it up into -8 plus 22 divided by 6 and -8 minus 22 divided by 6. So -8 plus 22 divided by 6 and -8 minus 22 divided by 6. Now we use our calculator. Pick up your calculators again. Type in -8 plus 22, hit equals. Now hit divided by 6. Your calculator should spit out 2.3 with a repeating bar. I will accept that, or if you hit math, enter, enter, I will also accept 7/3. The second problem, pick up your calculator again. -8 minus 22, hit enter, then divided by 6, and you should get -5. You must hit that enter, though, after the top. Otherwise, you'll get a wrong answer. And this problem is done. We found the 2 answers. The first answer is 2.3 repeating. The second answer is -5. So this is an example of one that has a perfect square root, and we found the 2 answers. So I would like you to pause your video, try example 2 by yourself. Let's see how you did. We want to get the equation equal to 0. We like to keep this guy positive. So we're going to move these 2 items. I'm going to subtract 12x because that's the opposite. And I'm going to add 5 because that's the opposite. Subtract 12x. Subtract 12x. Add 5. Those are all gone. We have our 0. What is like terms here? Well, these 2 are, because they are both whole numbers. So we have 2x squared, then the minus 12x, then 13 plus 5 is positive 18. Now you're ready to plug into the formula. A is 2, B is -12, C is positive 18. So here's what you should have on your paper. First, we need the opposite of B. Well, the opposite of -12 is positive 12. Plus or minus big square root. We need B squared. Now, here's something that's important. If B is negative, you must put it in parentheses when you square it. Minus 4 is part of the formula, times a, which is 2, times c, which is 18. All divided by 2 times a, which is 2. So hopefully you had that part right. Now we're ready to use our calculator a little bit. Keep the 12, keep the plus or minus, keep the square root. You should have typed this part in your calculator. Parentheses, negative 12, close parentheses, squared, minus 4 times 2 times 18, and you should have gotten 0. Divided by 2 times 2 is 4. Now, you want to check our square root. What's the square root of 0? Well, it's 0. This is, again, a perfect square root. So we have 12 plus or minus. The square root of 0 is 0 divided by 4. Now we need to find our two answers. We have 12 plus 0 divided by 4, and we have 12 minus 0 divided by 4. Well, 12 plus 0 is 12, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. 12 minus 0 is 12, divided by 4 is also 3. We got two answers, but they happen to be the same. Hopefully you got that problem right. So let's look at a couple more together. Example 3. Now there's a lot more stuff going on here. First of all, we need it equal to 0. Well, there's two different x squareds. There is 2x squared and x squared. We want to keep x squared positive, so you move the smaller amount. We're going to move this guy, and that guy. I'm going to subtract 1x squared. I'm going to add 3x, and I'm going to subtract 4. So again, minus 1x squared plus 3x minus 4. 2x squared, take away 1x squared, is 1x squared. 1x plus 3x is 4x, and negative 4 tags along. We have our 0. Now I need to identify my a, which is 1, b, which is 4, and c is negative 4. And we are ready to plug them in the quadratic formula. X equals opposite of b. So that will be negative 4 plus or minus big square root b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times a. We're ready to simplify. Keep the negative 4, keep the plus or minus, keep the square root. Type this part in your calculator. 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4 gives you 32. Over 2 times 1 is 2. Now, type this into your calculator with the square root, and do you get a nice number? And the answer is no. This time you get 5 point something. This is where we are not allowed to round. So, we're going to do some side work. I'm going to take my square root of 32, come over here, and make a factor tree like I've done several lessons. 32. Well, let's see. That's 4 times 8. Neither of those are prime. 4 is 2 times 2. Those are primes. Circle them. 8. 2 times 4. 2 is a prime. 4 is 2 times 2. Those are primes. What's the next step? Well, I'm looking for pairs. Pair of 2's crosses off. Outside the radical is 1, 2. A second pair of 2's cross off. Outside the radical is a second 2. Then this 2 that's lonely stays inside. So our answer is 2 times 2 is 4 square root of 2. This number that we just found is going to replace that guy. So our problem now looks like -4 plus or minus 4 square root of 2 divided by 2. Now this is one that we had to use a factor tree. We're not going to solve and find the answers like we did on examples 1 and 2. But we do have one more step we can do, and that's division. We're going to divide the top number here by the bottom number. -4 divided by 2 is -2. Keep the plus or minus. When we divide this one, you don't use the radical. It's only the 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and the radical 2 just tags along over here. That is your answer. Now, yes, it looks a little different. There's still 2 answers because of the plus or minus. It's just not 2 real answers like we are used to. Let's try one more together. This problem we needed equal to 0. Now this time, x squared is negative. We don't want it negative. We want it positive. So I'm going to move that one. I'm going to add 2x squared to both sides. We have our 0. None of these are like terms, so we're going to write 2x squared first minus 2x second plus 3 at the end. My a is 2, my b is -2, my c is 3. So let's see. X equals, I need the opposite of b. That will be a positive 2, plus or minus, big square root. B squared, we need parentheses because it's negative. -2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 3. All divided by 2 times a, which is 2. Let's do some calculator work. 2 plus or minus square root. Type all of this in your calculator. Parentheses, -2, close parentheses, squared, minus 4 times 2 times 3, and you'll get -20. And then on the bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. Well, this is a negative. That automatically means that we need a factor tree. So I'm going to bring this square root of -20 over here. Well, when we make a factor tree with a negative, we always start with -1 and then the +20. This is going to be your I. 20 is 2 times 10. 2 is a prime number. 10 is 2 times 5. Those are prime numbers. We are looking for pairs. Well, there's a pair of 2's. So outside the radical is a 2. There's no more pairs. The 5 stays inside. The -1 changes to an I. So now this is going to come back over here. So my equation now looks like 2 plus or minus 2I square root of 5, all divided by 4. Now, this one's a little different again. If we try and divide at this point, 2 divided by 4 doesn't give us a whole number, and we can only use whole numbers. So we're going to reduce this fraction. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to reduce all 3 of these numbers that form kind of a triangle. Is there something we can divide 2, 2, and 4 all by equally? And the answer is 2. We're going to divide all of it by 2. So it looks like 2 divided by 2 is 1, plus or minus 2 divided by 2 is 1I square root of 5 divided by 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this is your final answer. Yes, it's a little different. Yes, it stays a fraction. Just remember, we reduce in a triangle. So I would like you to pause your video now and finish the last 2 examples on your own. Let's see how you did on these. First thing you should have done was subtracted 4 from both sides. That should have left you with 9x squared plus 6x minus 4 equals 0. You knew A was 9, B was 6, C was negative 4. So you should have written on your paper, negative 6 plus or minus square root 6 squared minus 4 times 9 times negative 4, all divided by 2 times 9. Hopefully you had that part right. Then you should have kept the negative 6 and the plus or minus and the square root, and you should have typed all of that in your calculator and gotten 180. And 2 times 9 is 18. Now, if you tested this part in your calculator, you got a decimal. So hopefully you knew that this was a factor tree problem. And you came over here and you did the square root of 180. Well, there's a lot of ways of starting this. I like 18 and 10. Neither of those are prime. 18 is 9 and 2. 2 is prime. 9 is 3 and 3. Those are primes. And 10 is 2 and 5, and those are primes. You were looking for pairs. Cross off a pair of 3's outside the radical, put a 3. Cross off a pair of 2's outside the radical, put a 2. The lonely 5 stays inside. So your answer was 6 square root of 5. Hopefully you had that right. Now that comes over here. So on your paper, you should have had negative 6 plus or minus 6 square root of 5 over 18. This is where you needed to do your triangle. So you were looking at negative 6, positive 6, and 18. What can negative 6, positive 6, and 18 all be divided by? And the answer is 6. So we are going to divide the 3 numbers in the triangle by 6. Negative 6 divided by 6 is negative 1, plus or minus 6 divided by 6 is 1. The square root of 5 comes over, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. And that is a done answer. Hopefully you got that one right. Let's look at the very last problem. you should have started this one by subtracting 6x from both sides. You should have had x squared minus 6x plus 10 equals 0. Your a is an imaginary 1. Your b is negative 6. Your c is positive 10. You should have had written on your paper positive 6 because it's the opposite, plus or minus square root. You needed parentheses, so negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10, all divided by 2 times 1. Then you should have kept the 6 and the plus or minus and the square root. You should have typed all of that in your calculator, and you would have gotten negative 4, and the denominator, 2 times 1, is 2. This is a negative. If it's a negative, we automatically use a factor tree. So the square root of negative 4. Well, first, you automatically had to start with negative 1 and positive 4. 4 is 2 and 2, and that tree is done. Pair of 2's, cross those off. Outside the radical is a 2. No more regular numbers. Negative 1 crosses off and becomes an I. So there's no square root left. It's just 2I. And that replaces that guy. So it looks like 6 plus or minus 2I divided by 2. And your last step is division. 6 divided by 2 is 3, plus or minus 2I divided by 2 is 1I, and that is done. And hopefully you got that one right, and that's the end of your lesson.